We'll get started. Call to order
Got this.
the meeting of the Littleton City Council for January 17th. City Clerk?
Mayor Brinkman,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Stallman,
Here.
Councilmember Beckman,
Here.
Councilmember Cernanik, Councilmember Cole,
Here.
Councilmember Taylor,
Present.
Councilmember Valdez.
Present.
This evening, Troop 596 with the LDS Church is here with us today. So we'll stand for the pledge and ask you to lead us if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any changes to the agenda?
I have one to request under the general business is relates to our meeting on June 21st, whether to have one start late, whatever. So, but to discuss that.
Item number C will be timing on the June 21st meeting. And I have addition also. After the minutes are approved, we will read a proclamation. I also wanted to let the community know that if you are a follower of council, you will notice that the agenda looks a bit different at this meeting. We have adopted, or will be adopting, some new ways of doing things. One of them is that we've made some adjustments to the order of items on our agenda. And with your indulgence, I want to just go through a couple of those that you'll see tonight. The first one is we typically have our city manager announce new employees, and currently the city does do a swearing in of new employees. This is typically done in the city clerk's office. This will now be moved to a council meeting, and we will conduct this once a month or as needed. This replaces the somewhat awkward process of new employees coming to the meeting for a few minutes to be introduced. We believe it's important to recognize these employees and hope that our new process provides a more appropriate level of welcome to the Littleton family. And the other thing that you will notice as a change is that our staff and council reports have moved to the beginning of the meeting as opposed to the end. Reports often contain important information for and about the community. As our meetings can run quite late, many in the audience and those viewing at home have tuned out by the time we get to the reports. We wanted to provide the information earlier in the meeting. The new placement of reports also allows for members of the audience to address council in unscheduled public appearances following the council reports, thereby providing the opportunity for the public to respond immediately to anything in our reports. We hope that this will serve the community better, and perhaps council will keep their reports shorter. Moving to minutes, City Clerk, if you have received any non-substantive changes from council members prior to this meeting, will you please confirm that those changes have been made in the minutes?
I did receive non-substantive changes from Councilmember Cole on the January 3rd regular meeting and the January 10th special meeting. Study session. Sorry.
Okay.
And they have been incorporated.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from January 3rd. Anybody have any changes? Bruce?
Changes.
Okay. Approved as is. The minutes from the council meeting of January 3rd, which would, well, that was the study session and the regular session. Any changes on the regular session? Okay. Those are approved. Any changes on the special session from January 10th? Jerry?
I do have one item I would like to add in there that didn't make the minutes. It was just it was a little bit of discussion on the information that I had requested on the crime data for Council District 2, the Police District 3. if you could just add that in there, just that there was some brief discussion on that information. Thank you. That was my only change.
Okay.
Could we wait and approve those then next time when that's added in?
Okay, we'll bring those back next regular meeting. Thank you. Okay. Proclamation. Councilmember Stallman.
Okay. I buried it. Hang on. Just a second. There it is. Thanks. Thank you, Mayor. On, let's see, on 12th of January, I attended the LPS board meeting, Littleton Public School Board of Education meeting. And at the suggestion of the mayor, with the support of the city manager and city clerk, the mayor had signed a proclamation of the city of Littleton proclaiming January 12th as the National School Board Appreciation Month in the city of Littleton. I read the proclamation at the LPS board meeting and wanted to read it into the record formally at this meeting. Therefore, whereas the Littleton families are fortunate to live in a community with one of the best school districts in the state, some of the following facts prove why, and whereas the members of the Littleton Public School Board of Education were recognized in 2010 with the All-State School Board Award by the Colorado Association of School Boards. And whereas for the second straight year, Littleton Public Schools is the only Denver metro area school district to be accredited with distinction, the highest academic accreditation rating given by the Colorado Department of Education. There are only 14 out of 178 school districts in Colorado that have been accredited with distinction. And whereas it is essential that all citizens of the city of Littleton be aware of the importance of crime prevention programs and impact that their participation can have on reducing crime, drugs, and violence in the city of Littleton. Whereas LPS high schools have the highest graduation rate and the lowest dropout rate of any high schools in the Denver metro area, with LPS seniors awarded $25 million annually in college scholarships. And whereas Littleton, Heritage, and Arapahoe high schools have been featured in Newsweek magazine's Top High Schools in America and 5280 magazine's Top High Schools in Denver, and whereas 18% of LPS students are open enrolled, that is the highest percentage of any similar size school district or larger along the Front Range. Now, therefore, Debbie Brinkman, Mayor of the City of Littleton, does hereby proclaim January as National School Board Appreciation Month and calls upon all citizens of the City of Littleton to join and support the Littleton School Board. In witness whereof she is hereunto set her hand and caused the official seal of the City of Littleton to be affixed this 12th day of January, 2012. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so keeping with our new agenda, we'll go to report. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I hate to say it, I actually have something to report after you made a comment about keeping it short, so I guess I'm summarizing the last couple of months. Just a few miscellaneous items, just primarily for the public, but also update for the council. Our posters for the promoting reading will be hung at the Bemis Library here in the next couple of weeks, so look for those when you're out there. And the Getting to Know Your Council and Your City Manager will be completed after Councilman Cernanek returns from vacation, and we have a chance to video him, so look for that running on television as well. This evening you will be, under consent, adopting or approving the task force scope of work, and just want to say thank you to Councilwoman Cole and Councilman Cernanek, who assisted staff in putting that together, actually the three of us sitting here. And so I think if you're supportive of that, we'll be moving forward with it. Marlene is starting to set up the meeting so we can hit the ground running once Councilman Cernanek returns. I want to congratulate you again. I'm commenting on some consent items here for completing the Council University. I think that was a huge amount of work, and while it might have seemed in some cases somewhat mundane, I think it was a good opportunity for the council to start to learn about who each other are and how you're going to work together over these next couple of years. And of particular interest to me, as you know, is the goals and objectives. And I think setting those out is a great statement to the community. Those will be going on the website, by the way, as a side note. It's a good opportunity and tool for us to use for the budgeting, and as things come up through the year, making sure that our work that we are doing is in alignment with your goals and objectives. Last week, we had a Mullen High School student shadow us, several of the department heads, a Catherine Lichtenfels, who I think enjoyed herself immensely until the end when she hit the finance department. And she chatted with our finance director and said, I really don't like numbers. So I don't know how the last hour went, but everything else I think went well. You guys can probably relate to that. So. And then last week I had an opportunity, along with Councilwoman Cole, to attend the Greater Littleton Youth Initiative. And it was a good timing for me because I had lunch today with Scott Murphy, the superintendent for the school district, and we started talking about opportunities for partnership. What can we do that's new and innovative? Talked about housing, talked about the northeast part of the neighborhood, just starting to build that relationship with myself and him in that position. So that was a good meeting today. As Councilman Valdez requested to be added to the minutes, we are working on a District 3. He's asked us several questions, and so the police department is working on a response. Hope to have that in the next couple of days. It will go out to the full council, and it will be, I think, a start of the conversation for the February 10th presentation that we have discussed.
And that's Police District 3.
Yes, I'm sorry, Police District 3. Yes, not Council District 3. And then just heads up on what's coming. We are starting to work on some code changes now that the goals and objectives are completed, so you're going to see that. You're going to see some code amendments coming through. It may appear a little disjointed at first, just giving you a heads up, but as we get some of the low-hanging fruit out of the way, we're going to start undertaking some of the larger sections of the code. So know that will be happening, and we'll be working with the Planning Department, or Planning Commission in particular, because a lot of these are in community development, as you can imagine. And then lastly, and I've alluded to it, we are working on the agenda for the February 10th meeting. So, and I will keep it short. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. City Attorney?
I have nothing.
I used your time.
Bruce?
Nothing to report. I do want to say thank you to the manager for all the work on the Council University. Thank you also to the city attorney and city clerk who helped so much doing that, and the administrative coordinator for the city manager's office. It was a real team effort. Thank you very much.
Terry?
I just have, not a report, but just a comment. This month, Coach Ray Barron at Heritage High School celebrated his 32 years of coaching wrestling at Heritage High School. I know we have another Heritage team here tonight, so that's wonderful. But I think those that don't know Coach Barron, he doesn't just teach kids wrestling. He teaches kids how to be respectful of themselves and others. So Littleton is indeed fortunate to have somebody like Coach Barron. That's it.
Thank you. Peggy?
I have 4 things, actually. In the December public forum with Tom Christopite, the group identified ideas they would like the council to know about, things they'd like us to work on. And they had me take the notes, and I agreed to do that, sent them to all the attendees for whom I had email, and asked to make sure that I had the ideas right. So it has taken a bit of time to allow for feedback. I got feedback from 2 people, so I at least tonight want to share those ideas with you all. I think we pretty much are addressing those in our goals and objectives, but just for the record. And Wendy, I'll give you, and Michael, I'll give you a copy of these. Second, when I've tried to find some things on the city website, meetings and past meetings and so forth, I was looking for the Council University. I was looking for some other things. When we have more than one meeting on the same night, as we did once, we had 3 on the boom, 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 back and forth and whatever, it's hard to locate those, and the videos are all in one piece. And I think we need to have those meetings posted separately, backtracking, and the videos separate. A person shouldn't have to watch the whole thing to find something, because the agenda doesn't, there's not an agenda that covers all of that, at least that I could see. And the Council University things we did was so helpful. I think it's good to be able to review in a easier way, because we also don't have minutes on those. Second, well, that was second. Third, I request that council add to a study session or to general business agenda in the future what we want to call, what we now call conflicts and complications, part of our council communications. We had talked at one point of calling those advantages and disadvantages to something we're considering. And I find that more helpful than what we're now calling that. So it's a minor thing to talk about. And fourth, because I found it helpful, but maybe we'll see if anybody else does, I'd very much like to have the council follow-up list, weekly list, again, so that we can, at least I can keep track of what we've requested at various meetings and the status.
And I'll work with you on that last one. I just want to be efficient with the use of time. It was not if we can look at the bigger picture items, I'd be interested in having that conversation with council, but I don't want to be, that was time consuming for staff, and it really wasn't, at least at the time, there was not a lot of items being added to that list. So if you'll just allow some staff discretion in doing that and making sure that we're identifying the big picture items for it. But I would also hope that we are responsible and responsive to the council and completing it. And if what you're looking for is a feedback loop to let you know that it continued. But a lot of those things ended up just being ongoing and it never changed. And so I did do away with it because I didn't feel like it was serving any valuable purpose for it. So we can discuss further if necessary. But hopefully we are, again,
Well, I
being
would
responsive.
maybe like us to discuss further at another time,
Mm-hmm.
please.
Yep,
Thank you.
absolutely.
That's all. Thank you.
Tim? Debbie, thank you very much for inviting us to the Metro Mayor's Caucus Workshop on Saturday. I found that very informative and was glad to be able to sit in on that and listen to the discussion that was going on. And I thought the speaker that he had was very good as well. You might remember that last fall when we were doing the budget, I put a request in for some funding for the South Platte Park Foundation for enhancements along the Mary Carter Greenway. That has kind of evolved now into some tree planting along the east side of the river, particularly to the south of Bellevue Avenue. And I've had this conversation with Charlie, with Michael, with Scott Grimes from South Suburban, and Brett Collins from South Suburban. And we are moving forward in putting together some figures for that. Stan Brown, who owns Alameda Nursery, has come forth and said he would provide us some trees at discount for a project like this. We always get people who are requesting some project that they can volunteer in the city, church groups and scout groups and things like that. And so we're looking at trying to set up a tree planting day sometime in the spring. All that will be worked out in the next few weeks. And speaking of South Suburban, I did attend the board meeting last week on behalf of Councilman Cernick, who was out of town. Their board did approve the Stern Park pond dredging and discuss the senior fees and whether they're going to make a change in fees for seniors. And funding the South Suburban portion of the grant for the Highline Canal study that's going on. I received late this afternoon an invitation, and it said, please include mayors, council members, county commissioners to a Transportation Commission of Colorado luncheon in Castle Rock. And it goes on and says you're invited to come to this lunch. And then it says they're going to be meeting in Colorado Springs on the same day. So I'll try to find out more information about who this is and what it's about. I met with, at a meeting this morning, there happened to be 4 CDOT commissioners in the meeting that I was at. Nobody mentioned this to me at all. So I will try to find out more and let you know whether something is coming up about that. But that should do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan.
Thank you. I'd echo Jim's comments. I thought the Metro Mayor's caucus meeting, once it got rolling and got into some of the content, was quite good. So thank you very much for the invitation. To the, by the way, the folks from Heritage, I think this is sort of what they mean when they say you've got to pay to play, as far as listening to us talk about our reports up here. Anyway, as I mentioned a bit ago, I did attend the 12 January Littleton Public Schools Board of Education meeting. The more substantive items involved a report of the calendar committee, which essentially spends actually a surprising amount of time thrashing through the decision-making process in terms of how to set up the LPS calendar for the school year, in particular where furlough days fall, why they fall, where they fall, so forth and so on. But it was actually a rather in-depth discussion, and an awful lot of thought goes into that. The one that I thought, though, that was actually really sort of fascinating was their discussion of the social media strategy. And this comes into play in part with the Communications Director Nardi and the staff in terms of some of the things we're doing on the website. But in general, I think this actually, when you talk about old school, nothing like this existed when we were all in school, but now you've got literally new frontiers of teaching and learning in terms of issues that are completely new to this generation. So, for example, things like just social media and social networking safety. What are the do's and don'ts of publishing? How do you publish? When do you publish? Why do you publish? What should you and should you not publish? To things like YouTube and so forth and so on. Awareness of content, resourcing issues. For example, apparently what is happening today with respect to resume development and resume content, a lot of it is sort of directionally moving in the path of infographics as opposed to the way we always have done stuff, which is just put stuff on a piece of paper in words and give it to someone. So it's much more interactive. It's much more visually and content rich, if you will. I just thought it was fascinating. I'd encourage anyone who's got an interest in it to have a go with the school's website or the LPS website. Oh, I actually was this is very quickly. There was one slide where they talked about technology, a survey of technology used by 11 and 12-year-old boys. So apparently of the 137 students surveyed, 98% own a digital camera, 96% own a gaming console, 88% watch TV and movies online, 86% download music, 33% shop online, 95% have internet connectivity, 86% of them wireless connections, 94% use mobile phone, 74% use iPhone, 11% only use iPad, which is interesting. But this is completely different environment that exists today, and so just, an awful lot of respect to the educators who have to adapt from what they brought to the table to the technological environment that's changing in a blink of an eye. So enough said. Now, the often imitated, never duplicated, always loved and hated merchant plug of the week this week, which is tradition, by the way, goes to two particular groups, the first of whom I don't believe is here tonight, but I needed to do a quick shout out to Tim Nims, who I believe had his, 25th wedding anniversary or 20th? 25th. So I was intending to do this with him in the room, but since he's not here, you'll have to report back to him. But congratulations, Tim and Kathy. The second is an organization called Canyon Catering. Littleton is blessed with just an amazingly diverse business community, and in part it's not exactly an accident that there are so many diverse businesses here because of the advantages of being in Littleton that the business community recognizes, in part because of some of the support that, for example, the Business and Industry Affairs Department brings to the table with things like the Economic Gardening Program. But this is another example of just somebody, and a business that you don't normally think about driving down the street, but which really is sort of an amazing niche player. Canyon Catering began about 15 years ago with basically a small kitchen and a collection of silver trays, has grown into one of Denver's most versatile caterers, redefining excellence in food and service. Canyon Catering has always stood for 5-star restaurant quality food using top shelf ingredients to create the perfect setting for entertaining friends, family, and clients. They seek new and creative ways to please clients with exceptional food that is beautiful, delicious, comfortable, and within their power, affordable. We take a very personal approach with each of our customers in order to fully understand their catering needs. Big believers in meeting with our customers, listening to their needs, and providing constant communication. Ultimately, that means one thing, a successful event. Monty Johnson started this organization in 1996. He says many of the staff members have been with us 5, 6, 7 years or more and have made it a priority. They've made it a priority to provide consistent quality service that their clients can count on. A lot of our clients enjoy seeing the same staff members time after time at their yearly events, which is no small thing in a business that can be as potentially transient as the catering business. Encourage you to give them a call if you have any interest or need for their services, for catering services. They're located at 6518 South Broadway, which is behind the Kia dealership, Hyundai dealership, sorry, right next to Solid Grounds. And the phone number is 303-683-6878. Email info@canyoncatering.com. Thanks very much.
Starting my 5th year of holding my district community conversations, I will have my next one on Saturday, January 20th. It's from 1 to 3 p.m. It's at Carson Nature Center in the Solar Classroom, and it's an opportunity for any citizen to come and talk about their concerns or issues, ask questions. I represent District 4, so I hold it in District 4, but the entire community is invited. Mickey Kemp will be there to give us a brief overview of his CERT program, and then the bulk of the meeting will be with our Municipal Associate Judge Julie Anderson, Chief Heather Coogan, our City Attorney Kirsten Crawford, and the principal from Heritage High, and we'll have a dynamic discussion about how those 4 entities work together to support our students. So anybody want to come? Admission is free. Also wanted to let council and staff know that the Open Space Task Force has, although we will still be within our deadline, we're taking it to the edge. We would like to present to council on February 28th. So that will be a study session. It's our 4th Tuesday. So if we could get that scheduled, thank you.
We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Cog.
Yes, we're looking for nominees for the John V. Christensen Award. It is the highest award that Dr. Cog gives. It's given every other year, and we're looking for nominees. The deadline for doing that is February 1st. We heard reports from the University of Denver's study of the physical sustainability of the state government, and this is an ongoing discussion, and you'll hear a lot more about this in the press coming up in future weeks. A couple of dates. January 26th at 4 p.m., Dr. Cog orientation will occur, and on February 9th at 4 p.m. there will be transportation short course presented. The Metro Vision Issues Committee and the Regional Transportation Committee both have approved the implementation of delays for the transportation improvement projects and for the allocation of federal formula funds, which we'll take both of those topics up tomorrow night at our Board of Directors meeting.
And just as a point of clarification, because we live in a world of acronyms, Dr. Cog has nothing to do with medical. It is the Denver Regional Council of Governments. It's a multi-jurisdictional, multi-leadership entity that serves regional needs and works on a regional level with everyone within the Denver metro area, and actually outside of that, too. Okay, moving on. We have some special guests here this evening. The Littleton City Council is pleased to recognize the players and coaches of the Heritage High School boys soccer team who took second place in the state championship November 9th. Led by second-year head coach Adam Busick, the team was the 24th seed and 6th place finisher in the Continental League with a 14-6 record. They competed in the state championship game against third seed Denver East, who had an 18-2 record. And while the Angels came out on top with a 2-0 victory at Dick's Sporting Parks, the Heritage players had a remarkable year. They scored 52 goals over the season, averaging 2.7 goals per game. They beat the Colorado Springs Metro League champions, Doherty, and the East Metro League champions, Adams City, and the Centennial League and defending 5A state champions at Cherry Creek. Heritage was led by 12 seniors, and 11 different players either scored or assisted in a goal during the postseason. These young men played their hearts out, and second place at state is an impressive accomplishment. I will have Councilmember Stallman read your names, and as your name is read, if you don't mind, come on down. I've got something for you, and then line up in front of the dais, and we'll get some pictures.
Okay. Let's see. Our scoring leaders for Heritage were Christian Vargas, senior, with 11 goals and 4 assists. Please. Spencer Goldstein, sophomore, with 8 goals and 10 assists. Senior Isaac Whitty, 6 goals and 9 assists. Also was named to the first team Colorado All-State Players in the National Soccer Association of America All-Region. Impressive. Josh Bruno, senior, with 6 goals and 7 assists. And along with Isaac Whitty on the Colorado All-State team were seniors Gaines Adams was first team, and Alex Goldstein is a senior, was also on the second team. And I'd like to also then recognize other members of the team. Michael Day is a junior. Senior Brady Demon. Senior Samson Ramsey. Senior Zachary Tenaglia. Junior Colin Malloy. Junior Zachary Melfi. Senior Craig DeBow. Sophomore Austin Fuller. Junior Nick Feder. Senior Slater Dean. Senior Tommy Reeves. Junior Bryson Jacobs. And Junior Clint Corey. Senior Matthew Coran. Freshman William Herzl. Junior Ryan Greenway. Junior David Harry. And Junior Timothy Irwin. Littleton City Council extends congratulations to Coach Busick, Assistant Varsity Coach Alex DaCosta, Assistant Coaches Russ Dornish, Mike Rudolph, Mike Tenaglia, and Jordan Tenaglia, and trainer Jordan Rice. The City Council is also proud to recognize the players for their incredible accomplishments and for their representation of their school and city.
Well, just on behalf of the Heritage High School boys soccer team, I want to thank you for inviting us down, and you, city council members. It's, I think it's teaching social studies at Heritage is fun for me to get to sit here and watch the meeting, and I was thinking the whole time, oh, this is awesome for my government kids. So I really appreciate the invite and the honor, and I want to say that on behalf of all the coaches and the student athletes at Heritage, the community support we felt during the season, especially in the playoffs, was outstanding, and the soccer community in Littleton is second to none in all of Denver, and it shows in the development of the players and the support from the community as well as the student body at Heritage. But thanks a lot to the community of Littleton for their support.
Give these guys a hand.
Captain Isaac Woody will present you with a gift.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nice. Oh, nice shirt.
Congratulations, guys.
I was going to say the same thing.
Good job, guys.
She is.
Good job.
Great effort. Thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They're not staying.
Yeah.
We're losing the crowd.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Wait, flip the tag. Yeah.
This is why I told Debbie
Gotta cover up that emblem.
leave that to the end.
It is very cool.
Well done on the names.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you very much.
That was outstanding.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was good.
Okay. Awesome. So we have no one in scheduled public appearances. Is there this opportunity now for any unscheduled public appearances? If anybody wants to, it's an opportunity for any citizen to express opinions or ask questions regarding our city services, council policies, or other matters of concern that are not part of the scheduled agenda. We do have a public hearing later on regarding the Stern Lake dredging, so if you are here to speak on that, then wait, if you don't mind, for the public hearing later in the meeting. And come on down.
I actually filled out the green form and handed it in.
Yes. Would you give us your name and address?
My name is Ray Koenig. My address is 7 Meadowbrook Circle in Littleton, and I'm here to tell you a story. Nobody sleep, please. I was first elected to the Littleton City Council in 1969. Many of you may not have been born then or very young. It was a good council, and the council before us, John Kinghorn was the council president, and his council had accepted the Kettering House from the Kettering estate, which were related to General Motors. And we had this wonderful house, and that council said, we need a museum. The Littleton Historical Society said, we need a museum too. They wanted to store butter churns and plows and stuff and warehouse them. But a week before I was inaugurated, my fellow council members, the city hired Bob McQuarrie, a young man from the State Historical Society who had a vision beyond just a place to warehouse objects. Bob's idea was that he wanted not just an exhibit hall, but a living farm wherein young people and older people would be able to experience to what element they could how Littleton functioned and how life functioned in the 19th century. Bob was a tireless worker. You want to find Bob, don't go to his office. He's never there. He's out on the farm building something, doing something else. His first project was to take the first Arapahoe County school building, which was down by the Platte River toward Petersburg, which was up where Englewood is, bring it to the museum. It was, when he got it, it was located in what we now call Bega Park. It had been used as a chicken coop. It was surrounded by wire fencing. He brought it up and put it on the museum, built a new roof for it, and hoped someday to be able to use it for a schoolhouse. He also brought to us the Fred Bemis home, which had sat where the district attorney's office was on the southeast corner of Littleton Boulevard and the then railroad tracks. That's where Fred Bemis, an early pioneer, raised alfalfa to feed the cattle of his dairy, which was down by the Platte River. Then Bob acquired many other buildings and things. Among them, he acquired the house, the Broom House, I think Broom House, I have the name, that is now the one over in the museum on the 1860s part that was used where they cooked food for the workers out there. I remember first seeing that house when on the walls it was all newspaper of Civil War battles, and I'm sorry we lost a lot of that. It was great. Bob lived in Littleton, and he lived Littleton. He was everywhere. You wanted to see where he was out talking to people. He made the Friends of the Library become the Friends of the Library and Museum. Bob did some wonderful things. One he wanted to do, and accomplished it, was he wanted to build a barn. Not the way you'd build a barn today, but he wanted the men to dress up, use adzes and pegs, and put up the walls of the barn that you see in the 1890s farm building. It was a wonderful experience. Women cooked in the wood-burning stove in the Bemis house, and we had a festival and an experience. It was incredible. Bob did that. Bob also learned to shear sheep. He wanted to make sure we had the right sheep. We had sure we had cows. We had draft horses. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And we were doing urban renewal in those days because of the junior college, now community college. And Bob discovered the materials from a blacksmith shop that had existed down in that area. He acquired those for the city, and then went about finding what a period blacksmith house would look like in the latter 19th century, and had it built, even to the post and wire lights inside that you would have had in those days. And he liked the blacksmith. He did that as well. The main thing I think Bob did in this time was to create a school program for young children of Littleton to go spend a week as though they were pioneers, to learn weaving, blacksmithing, all the things that they might have to do if they were young in those days. All three of my kids went through that. My son Kevin, who's an architect, some of you know him. Kevin was a professional architect, or was a professional blacksmith in New Mexico while he lived there, and went. So that played to a lot of people. Bob was wonderful. Bob, we had our centennial. Some of you may, not you wouldn't, Jim might.
Thank you.
Jim's older than dirt, too. Bob came around dressed as Richard Little with a surveying equipment and drove stakes in your yard as though he's platting the community. He was so Littleton involved, and everybody knew him, and he was a wonderful man. Bob also wrote the definitive history of Littleton with Kurt Buchholz, a friend of his. And if you can still find a copy of it, the photographs and the history are everything you wanted to know. The book is entitled Settlement to Centennial. Well, Bob died. Well, no, I want to go back before Bob died. Yes. My daughter Kate died in 1978, 2 months before her 14th birthday. She had been born with a heart problem, which today would not be a problem, but turned into one. And her memorial fund went to the museum to furnish the schoolhouse so that Miss Ann and others could teach school there. And I was very pleased with that, of course. Bob died in 2007, 1997, excuse me. Bob died in 1997. He lived here, and everybody was sorry to see that. He had died. Mary Ullman, who later became my wife, put together what we now have as the museum building, got that through our council. I wasn't dating her or anything in those days, not until she moved to Kansas. but she got the council, our council, to approve the use of leftover Tabor funds and some other things to build the wonderful museum structure that we now have. Any of you who remember the old one, it was very unfunctional. Anyway, I would like to see Bob remembered. We would not have that museum without Bob McQuarrie. We wouldn't have the national press that we got for the Littleton Historical Museum. And I would like to propose to you to ponder the idea of naming the building the Robert J. McKay McQuarrie Building. I'm sorry, I choke up over this. I think it would be, we name parks and all for politicians. It's not very often that we get to name ordinary citizens that, and I would hope that you would consider naming it for Bob McQuarrie. He was a wonderful man. Bruce, I think you knew him. Jim obviously did, and some of you here would have as well. So that's my pitch. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
If I could say, I would like to just reflect what Ray is saying, that I got to know Bob McQuarrie very well. In about 1990, I became very close to him, and I considered him a great professional friend and truly just a font of historical knowledge about Littleton, and I also have one of his signed books. So it would be appropriate to find a way to recognize him.
Thank you, Bruce. Karen?
Thank you, Ray, for that history. That was good.
Or anybody with history.
Good evening, Council. I'm Karen Millsbaugh from Trailmark, and it's been probably the last 7 years that I've been coming here, and also the last 9 that we have been coming to the Council asking for some help with the response times in Trailmark. And I think that the options that Chief Mullen presented were very similar to the options that we talked about in 2005. So when you take a look at those options, we still don't have the proper response times that we feel as though we need. Unfortunately, this year we've had one structure fire that disallowed a family to live in their home for probably the last 6 months. They finally managed to get there by Christmas. We also lost a resident in Trailmark through cardiac arrest. What happened was that the call came in, Rural Metro came in about 6 minutes, and Littleton Fire came in about 10. Unfortunately, we lost our neighbor. So I'm looking at the things that we really need to do, and I'm asking you first to figure out a way to get the response times. Our ultimate goal is to ask you to consider moving a fire station closer to Trailmark so that we don't lose a neighbor and we don't lose another structure. I'm also asking some questions as to when we are going to actually get an answer about our ISO rating. I'm also asking questions from council about when the task force that we were invited to in October would begin. We'd like to have those answers so that we can keep working. If it takes another 7 years, I hope not, because I don't want to lose another neighbor and I don't want to lose another structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. The task force that Karen made reference to is a Trailmark task force that we've put together. The task force includes myself, Councilmember Stallman, Fire Chief Mullen, City Manager Penny, Acting City Attorney Kirsten Crawford. We've invited Karen as president of the HOA and Mike Rogers, president of the Metro Board. And I believe that Sherm Steed and Mark Rogers have also been invited. We have not held a meeting yet. I believe we're putting a meeting together in the next couple weeks or so. And I understand what you're saying about the time. I mean, I guess this is as slow as government moves. This is actually, you're getting a taste of how slow things can go. And we have, while it may not, you may not see a lot of action, there has been a lot of what we're dealing with now is working on some negotiations, and as we've mentioned before, those are done in confidentiality because of the obvious confidential nature of that. So what we are hoping to be able to do in a couple of weeks is have an agenda where we do have some information, we do have some work plans and some things that we can actually, some substantive information we can work through. So thank you for coming down. We hear what you're saying, and hopefully we'll get everything on track and see this move a little bit faster. Thanks, Karen. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. So now we move to our consent agenda. These are items that can be adopted by a simple motion. And our first item on our consent agenda is the adoption of our council protocols. The City of Littleton is committed to maintaining high ethical standards. The city operates in a representative democracy to serve the citizens of Littleton and ensure the community's needs are met. Public servants have a special responsibility to carry out their duties with integrity. In order to preserve the confidence and trust of the public, the protocol and standards of conduct provides uniform rules to guide the conduct of the city's officers, boards, commission members, and hereinafter referred, or commission members hereinafter referred to as the boards. Okay. Item number B is the adoption of our legislative rules and procedures. These rules shall govern all meetings and proceedings of the City Council, boards, commissions, and committees, and the order of business and the conduct of the mayor, the City Council, and board and commission members and persons in attendance in such meetings. Okay, item number C is council goals and objectives for 2012 through 2013. Our vision statement is to preserve a family-oriented and economically vibrant community that encourages citizen involvement, respects diversity, values community character, and enhances the quality of life of Littleton residents and visitors. Okay, consent item number D, 7D. City Attorney.
This is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Littleton, the Urban Drainage and Flood Control District, and the South Suburban Park and Recreation District regarding Stern Lake maintenance.
On January 3rd, 2012, Littleton City Council reviewed on first reading a budget amendment to allocate a total of $75,000 in contributions toward the removal of sediment from Stern Lake. As proposed for second reading tonight, funds will be used to remove sediment from Stern Lake. The proposed work will also include some related bank stabilization, regrading, revegetation, all of which should help the quality. Urban Drainage and Flood Control District has agreed to do the project management for the work, including hiring of a contractor. The proposed IGA will define financial contributions and responsibilities of each party. For the Stern Lake maintenance to occur, City Council must adopt this IGA/contract with Urban Drainage and the South Suburban Parks and Rec, as well as amend the budget. The city approves IGAs by resolution and budget amendments by ordinance. Ordinances appear later in the agenda as they require a public hearing. You will notice that agenda item 8A is a follow-up item to this. It is an ordinance requiring a budget amendment and a public hearing. IGAs are not subject to a hearing. This one's considered non-controversial and has been placed on consent. Item 7E, City Attorney.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, approving the issuance of a promissory note by Littleton Housing Authority to finance the acquisition and rehabilitation of a 69-unit multifamily rental housing project.
The Housing Authority of the City of Littleton proposes to use the proceeds of the note to make a loan to Power Circle Apartments, LLP, to finance the acquisition and rehabilitation of a 69-unit multifamily rental housing project known as Power Circle Apartments. This resolution approves the issuance of a promissory note by LHA. The city of Littleton or any other political subdivision of the state of Colorado other than the authority shall not be liable for the note, nor shall the note constitute a debt or a multiple fiscal year obligation of the state of Colorado, the city, or any such political subdivision other than the authority.
I'd like to pull this one.
Okay, that one's been pulled. 7F, City Attorney.
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, approving a memorandum of understanding with the South Metro Drug Task Force relating to the participation in a regional drug task force.
The purpose of the memorandum of understanding is to continue the multi-agency task force to target illegal narcotics within the South Metro area. The Littleton Police Department was a founding member of the task force in approximately 25 years ago, and we have remained an active participant. The cost to participate and the employee costs are included in the police department budget. The 2012 contribution amount is estimated between $5,000 and $6,000. Item 7G.
This is a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Douglas County to use their sex offender tracking and registration system.
The Police Department and Information Services have maintained a database of registered sex offenders for several years, as allowed by state statute, with parts of the database accessible to the public on the city's webpage. When the law allowing public disclosure was passed several years ago, Douglas County developed the SOTAR program in their Information Services Department. The SOTAR program has continued to grow in use by metro agencies and is used by many of our neighboring agencies. The system does allow ease of use for our citizens, as they can check multiple areas in and around a specific location while on one screen on the computer without having to go to multiple individual websites. There are several benefits to use this system, including access to pictures from multiple agencies, increased web access for citizens, ease of transfer of sex offenders when they move to another jurisdiction, automatic notifications when an offender is due to be verified, and aids in interagency communication about offenders. Okay, item number 7H is a recommendation for the 2012 reappointment of Linda Suttle to represent Littleton on the Arapahoe County Community Corrections Board. Linda Suttle is a victim service coordinator for the Littleton Police Department and has served on the Arapahoe County Community Corrections Board since June of 2008. Ms. Suttle continues to serve as an active board member and is the only member of the board with a background in victims' issues. In addition, Ms. Suttle has recently been elected as board chair. Okay. Item 7I is the boards and commissions' scope of work for the task force, and it details the directive for the, briefly read this, during the 2012 council liaison discussion, it was determined there was a need to evaluate the status and focus of current and future advisory boards and commissions, as well as other groups, organizations with connections to Littleton. The genesis and evolution of many of these boards and commissions has not been clearly documented, and council felt there would be value in the creation of a task force to delve deeper into this issue. The task force will work with the current boards and commissions and other groups outside the city as appropriate to gain input and additional information necessary to meet the assigned scope of work. Any? Okay. Item 7J. The purpose of this communication is to request approval of a motion changing the starting time of the regular council meeting on February 7th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. The Democratic and Republican caucuses will be held this night, and some council members would like the opportunity to attend their caucus.
I just have a question of clarification.
Yes.
Did we have a study session scheduled that same day?
We had tentatively, I believe, had an executive session. No, I'm sorry, it was a study session, but we did shift the date of that. I believe no, it was an executive session with the Englewood City Council, and we moved that to February 9th in the morning, tentatively, because we're confirming with Englewood.
Thank you.
That is a regular meeting day, though, the 7th.
Right.
Okay.
Move the adoption of consent agenda items A through J with the exception of E.
Second.
Okay. Votes, please.
The vote is 7 in favor, 6 in favor. The motion carries.
Okay. So we are at 7E. Councilmember Stallman, you pulled that.
Thank you. Yeah, with council's indulgence, I don't have any problem with this. However, with the exception of Mr. Councilmember Valdez, who actually has a lot of professional experience in this area, I wanted to ask Dan Burnham from the Housing Authority to come down and just essentially just do a quick walkthrough on this one to help explain exactly what's going on. And the reason I'm doing that is when reading this document, there was an initial financing vehicle put in place to acquire the properties, and then it took several years before what's now occurring is a permanent financing structure to be put in place, which includes a combination of debt financing as well as some equity investment based on the tax incentive financing component of the whole thing. LHA is a big stakeholder in the community, and I'd asked you some questions before council started, and I thought it was worth having you just sort of repeat what you told me on camera or in public so that everybody had the same visibility, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. As you stated, we bought the property over on Power Circle in October of 2008, just about the time the economy started to go down. We initially, at that point, had planned to use low-income housing tax credits to finance and do permanent financing. The tax credit market really tanked about that time, so we've been unable to have a favorable tax credit market until recently. So we did interim financing, which was through Vector Bank. It was interest-only financing, and it allowed us to make the project feasible, continue leasing up and getting everything ready. So when the market did change, then we would be able to do permanent financing. We have gone out for a solicitation. We have a tax credit partner identified, Mountain Plains Equity, and Bank of the West has agreed to provide financing on a permanent basis. As council knows, we got the private activity bond allocations for 2 years from council, from the city. We will be using those private activity bonds, we're kind of a conduit to issue those bonds, and so we will be issuing the bonds. Bank of the West will be buying those and providing the permanent financing, and then Mountain Plains Equity Group will become our main partner in this whole venture. They will be able to purchase 4% low-income housing tax credits, which are issued through the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. They will actually invest money to buy the tax credits, and it will give them a tax advantage over the next 10 years. So their investment will provide about $1 million for us to do renovations to those 3 buildings and complete what we started out to do in 2008.
And for clarification, the private activity bond allocations, this is something the state parses out to municipalities or counties across the state. Littleton gets a finite amount, which the city passes to the housing authority as the vehicle to actually accomplish the financing for these projects.
Right.
Okay.
And so there's no financial, as the mayor mentioned,
Right.
no financial obligation of the city. It just is a mechanism for us to do finance.
Okay. And the total, you said the total project was roughly $6 million, and the equity partner, Mountain Plains, was putting in about half, and
Roughly,
Bank of the West
right.
is putting in roughly half.
Well, they'll do financing on. We have about $2.5 million in private activity bonds that we'll be using for that.
They're buying.
Right. They're gonna
Bank of the
buy
West
those.
is buying those.
They'll be
Yeah.
issuing the financing for that.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. It's, as I said, there's enough moving parts in there.
It's a tough thing to put all the parts together and
Yeah.
to understand all the parts.
Right. And I appreciate your sharing some additional details.
No problem.
Councilmember Stallman, if I may, Just so the whole council has an understanding of what you're being asked to do here, it's what's referred to as a ministerial act. So you're getting statutory instructions, and there's not any discretion here. It's really just, it's a ministerial approval.
Right.
Jim?
And just so nobody gets the wrong idea, the private activity bond allocation for 2 years is the first time that has gone to the Housing Authority. Previously, it has always, the city hasn't used it for years. And it previously goes through either Dr. Cog or the Metro Mayor's Caucus, and then it's passed on through Denver for their allocation. And then they put all the pool together for the whole metro area and reallocate it back. And it sometimes comes back to Arapahoe County through the county agencies, or it could come back any place, but it's generally administered by Denver County.
Jerry?
Dan, maybe if you could spend just a couple minutes talking about the difference between a tax credit through the IRS versus a HUD Section 8 property.
The tax credit through the IRS is basically for private investors. It gives them, as I said, a tax advantage. The Section 8 is basically subsidy through the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and so it is tenant-based. It's issued through HUD, whereas the tax credits are issued through the Internal Revenue. So it's not a subsidized program. It's strictly for private investment for affordable housing.
And just to be clear, that this is not a Section 8 HUD property?
In no way, no.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have a motion? I'm sorry,
Just one question. And just to clarify also, you're not creating any additional housing units in that area. These are housing units that already exist
These
and
are
are being
units that were
rehabbed.
built in 1961 that have not been renovated since then. So it's 69 existing units. Right.
Thank you.
These are units over by 7-Eleven, kind of, just behind that? And you already have done some rehab already?
We've done almost $1 million worth of rehab already.
Good improvement.
Good.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Motion? Someone?
Move that consent agenda item E be approved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Votes?
Vote is 6 in favor, the motion carries.
I keep waiting for Phil to vote. I don't think so.
Mayor, may I,
Yes.
if you'll indulge me just for a moment before we get to
Geez,
the
okay.
general business. I was hoping it was all going to be done in one, but we wanted to pass out certificate of achievement. It's a big deal, so thank you very much for all your work and attention to it. There you go.
Oh, boy.
There you are.
Thank you, thank you.
We did save money, they're not framed, so you'll have to go over and frame.
Do we need to check these for spelling and grammar and format like we've been doing?
Yeah, Peggy, can you get on that?
Come on, somebody else clap.
I'll clap.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's cool, thanks.
You waited until we passed those to hand out the, it's like you got to turn in your books
I
before
wouldn't
you
hand
get your
them out.
report card.
Remedial training.
Okay, so that takes us to item 8A. This is an ordinance on second reading regarding the 2012 budget amendment for Stern Lake. City Attorney?
An ordinance of the City of Littleton, Colorado, amending ordinance number 21, series of 2011, known as the Annual Appropriation Bill for all municipal purposes of the City of Littleton, counties of Arapahoe, Jefferson, and Douglas, State of Colorado, for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2012, and ending December 31, 2012.
Okay, Council, this will be presented by Charlie Bloston.
Now that you have a diploma, I am going to give you your first test. Stern Park Pond or Lake is one of how many that are inside the city limits that are public lakes or ponds?
We didn't cover that in our university.
It was covered, but you missed that part of the...
20, Charlie, 20.
No,
9.
no.
Over or under?
The over or under is much higher. There are 15 public ponds or lakes in the city of Littleton. I'm going to name them and purposely leave one out. I'm doing this hopefully that the Heritage soccer team went home and decided to watch the rest of the meeting on television and are fascinated by this conversation. Besides Stern, you have Geneva, Kettering, Littles Creek, Ridgewood, Ashbaugh, a pond in Progress Park, 2 in Trailmark, 5 in South Platte Park, and 1 other.
Stern.
Said Stern. That was the first one. Watson Lake Park on the west side of the river just south of Bowles Avenue. Those are the 15 ponds and lakes in Littleton that are publicly owned. Okay, so I taught you something tonight in addition to your Council University.
Where's the one in Progress? I'm trying to...
There's one on Progress just to the south side of Big Dry Creek at the end of that dirt road that comes off of Hickory Street.
Well, it is a little house.
Kind of tucked in against the hill.
I expect you ought to go check these and make sure I'm right.
Yeah.
Between you and Ray, I don't know if I can take all this knowledge.
Well, the Housing Authority gave us a tour, so we're expecting a tour, Charlie.
I'll give you the lakes tour.
So, Charlie, how many need to be rehabilitated? Is that your
One.
next question?
Actually, a little more. There's the one in Stern Park is a lake that has filled with silt and sediment as a result of water coming and debris coming down Stern Ditch, we call it, Littles Creek. The reason urban drainage is participating in this project is because it's on the major drainage channel of Littles Creek. Littles Creek, which actually flows into the South Platte River at the EchoStar facility, goes right through Stern Park. Urban Drainage has indicated that they will manage the project. They will hire the contractor, and they have finally agreed to put $25,000 into the project, thinking that it will cost as much as $175,000 to do it. As you heard earlier tonight by Councilman Taylor, South Suburban Parks and Recreation has approved their $75,000 contribution. We have $50,000 in our budget for 2012. In order to continue with this project, we need another $25,000, which is the reason for this budget amendment. Council, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to address and tell you where there are no other lakes or ponds in Littleton.
So that EchoStar pond is private, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, what's your confidence level on the $175,000 being sufficient?
50-50.
So would it make sense to bump the budget request up here to, with respect to contingencies, or do you want to, how do you want to do that?
I would go with it.
Huh?
I would go with it at a 50-50 chance.
Okay.
The reason I say that is you're at contractor's mercy. There are 2 things that will control dramatically the cost of this project. One is, do they have a place to deposit the material they're taking out, the sludge?
We have a farm in Bennett, don't we?
I'm not going to drive that far. There is a site that South Suburban owns off County Line Road that they would like the stuff taken to that location. The second thing that will control this is how do you get it from Stern Park to that location? And we want the contractors, large trucks, to go as quickly as possible to Littleton Boulevard and cut through the neighborhood as little as possible. And if the contractor can take the stuff to that place on County Line Road at no expense, then I'm very confident in the $175,000 budget. If that's not the case, then I'm a little worried, but I still think it's appropriate to go at least to the bid stage and make sure that we can do the project.
Okay. Thanks.
Bruce?
Charlie, we know the neighbors really do want this lake drained, but I just suggest they may not want the trucks loaded with the sludge going up and down through the roads there. That'll be a whole nother look. Could you work with the contractors for them to do the best they can to disrupt the neighborhood as little as possible?
We will work with the contractor to designate a haul route. My preference, again, is to go north to Littleton Boulevard to get away from the neighborhood and on a major arterial street as quickly as possible. And Littleton Boulevard is structurally capable of handling large truck traffic. If they are to drive through to the west, to Windermere, and take the shortest route, for example, to that county line road site, down Windermere, maybe to Ridge Road, those streets would be torn up. So we will designate how to haul the material out.
Thank you.
Okay. Jerry? Peggy, did you?
So,
No, hold on, Peggy. Jerry first. I'm sorry.
All right. So we have not done competitive bids, is that right?
Not yet.
And we're going to do competitive bids.
Urban Drainage Flood Control District will do that.
So we put out to the world that this is how much money we have, so bid on it.
Typically, contractors know that. We don't tell them ahead of time how much we have, but typically it's a competitive bid, so the lowest and best bid will get the project.
Is this similar to the Kittering project?
Kettering, yeah, you're good question, Councilman. Kettering was redesigned. There was actually originally 4 islands in Kettering. Now there's only 3. And the shoreline was redone, and the lake had a liner installed in it as well, because there was significant leakage from that lake. This is just removal of the material and haul it away, and then the lake will be refilled.
So it's not going to have that grassland or that filter type of thing going on.
No.
So the period of performance, how long will this take? And when?
I would guess minimum of 30 days, probably closer to 60 will be allowed to the contractor. And if I were betting on this, I would say the middle of the summer.
Is that a 50-50 bet?
Yes.
Thank you.
Jim?
Charlie, is your department prepared to do the street cleaning frequently? Because that usually when you're hauling that watery sludge through, the trucks leak and you've got mud all over the streets, which is a complaint you'll get from neighbors unless you are prepared to come in there and clean.
2 ways to do it is require the contractor to clean it or we do it. And you know what the best answer is? Both.
Probably.
When you remove that stuff and it dries, it's in the consistency of toothpaste. And hopefully they have trucks that are sealed so it doesn't leak all over the street. And every truck has to be tarped on the top. That's the best response I can give you, is that if the contractor is required to clean the street and we supplement it, it'll be best for the neighborhood.
Peggy?
so 2 questions. First, what route will they probably take out of there to get to Main Street? I mean, Littleton Boulevard?
I don't know. To go straight north, you got Prescott, Spotswood, Bemis. Crocker is probably the best one because it has a traffic light.
Oh, okay. I mean, because I was thinking about the road work you're going to do on Bemis, so we don't want to.
Yeah, we probably stay
Bemis
off of
and-
Bemis.
okay.
I doubt seriously if heavy trucks could drive on Bemis without doing significant damage.
Okay.
The best street up there is probably Crocker, and because there's a traffic light, it would help traffic a lot.
Okay, thank you. But then the cross street there probably might need a little attention afterwards.
That's Lily, yes.
Okay.
Which isn't in exactly great condition right now either.
Thank you.
Would you just say it's what?
Lily is the east-west street.
You said the condition is?
It's not real great.
The nature of we're essentially talking about these long open-top trailers. You're talking about a tarp over the top,
Yes.
not dump trucks.
Right.
Okay.
There are actually tankers that are open at the top.
Yeah. Okay. And how many, out of curiosity, do you have a ballpark guesstimate of how many of these things it's going to take, how many trips it would take to do what we're talking about doing?
I have no idea.
Okay, so I mean, it could be.
I've heard there are, in some places in Stern Lake, the water is only 2 feet deep.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of material to be removed.
Okay, so it could be 40, 50 trips, maybe more. Who knows?
Oh, easily.
Okay.
And they would be going back up Little's Creek a little bit too, right? Because the water there is only
Yeah, you go
a few
actually
inches.
outside the limits of the lake. You go a little bit upstream.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll just refill back up again very quickly. Yeah, good point.
Charlie, are they going to put any, are they going to reseed the bottom of the thing? I mean, when they're all done, is South Suburban going to come in and do anything in terms of like putting reeds or water plants in there to try to absorb some of this stuff?
That is not part of the project. I'd have to talk about that with the South Suburban staff. You don't want to disrupt the clay bottom of the lake, because the clay is what's holding the water in.
Sure.
And I'll just have to talk to South Suburban and see what their intentions are. We have not discussed that issue.
Okay, any more questions, council? Okay, I'd like to open the public hearing. We have no one on the roster, but if someone would like to come down and speak to it, they can do so now. Okay. So seeing no one wanting to come down and talk, I will close the hearing. And can I get a motion from council?
So we would move to close the hearing?
Yeah.
So I move the public hearing be closed and the budget amendment ordinance amending the 2011 annual appropriation bill, increasing total expenditures by $25,000 be approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Okay, ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor. The motion is approved.
Okay, item 9B is the motion to adopt the appointee communication policy and amend the appointee EEO complaint process.
Mayor Brinkman,
Yes.
9A is the
Oh.
downtown plan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm just moving right on. Yes. Okay, we're going to go into reverse and go to
I'll read
9A.
by title.
A resolution approving the downtown neighborhood plan. City Attorney?
This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Littleton, Colorado, ratifying the downtown neighborhood plan as an amendment to the comprehensive plan.
Okay, Linda?
Good evening. Tonight, I wanted to just briefly update you on the process that we use to address your concerns regarding the downtown neighborhood plan. Beginning in 2008, the Planning Commission worked for around 3 years to update the downtown neighborhood plan, addressing changes that have occurred in the past 30 years and inviting citizen input into how to make downtown Littleton a better place to live, to work, and to shop. As most of you know, the City Council reviewed the downtown neighborhood plan that was approved by the Planning Commission and expressed concerns that caused you to reject the plan on November 1st, 2011, and send it back to the Planning Commission with specific recommendations. Some of these recommendations were in conflict with what the Planning Commission voted to approve. So given that there would be a new council and a new mayor, the city manager and the community development director felt the best way to understand and resolve conflicts between the recommendations and the approved plan was to meet with city staff, council, and planning commission leadership and discuss them point by point. Then on November 22nd, the Planning Commission Chair Pro Tem, Craig Coronado, myself, Mayor Brinkman, City Manager Penny, City Attorney Crawford, and Community Development Director Van Nimwegen met to review and update the downtown area plan. We took your input, frankly, and discussed issues in an open and collaborative manner, and we were able to address your issues and agree upon language that we think improves and strengthens the plan. So the Planning Commission then met on November 28, 2011, to review the documents updates based on the November 22nd meeting. City staff then took the input from all the meetings and incorporated it into a final document. So on December 12th, the Planning Commission voted 6-1 to approve the plan in the form that you see tonight. As chair of the Planning Commission, I represent the entire Planning Commission in urging you to improve this plan tonight. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Glenn.
Thank you, Linda. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to point out there were 29 changes that the Council recommended. I wanted to point out a couple of obvious things that are different in the final version. One had to do with the height map, and just to kind of go over the history of the height map, because 90% of the downtown area has the zoning of CA, which allows 40 feet. But there is an ability to come through with a planned development overlay to increase that height And basically, the zoning, the sky's the limit on that. There isn't a cap on that. So the Planning Commission put a lot of effort into identifying areas where, if they were requested to go additional height, where could those areas be? And hence the height map was born. When it came before council, I think council's concern was, well, now we're inviting additional height, and perhaps that's not the appropriate place. So ultimately, I think our middle ground was that the height map really doesn't make the final decision. Ultimately, it has to come before the Planning and Zoning Commission. They have to make a final decision if there is additional height. And the goals of the general plan are really what ought to guide that additional height. So the map has gone away, and instead we've added criteria that will be considered for those areas of additional height. One, it must support the character of the various sub-areas of the downtown area. One would be the downtown neighborhood, where we still have single-family residents, and people feel that that's a nice single-family neighborhood as a part of the downtown area. We can't overpower that area with height. There's a goal that there's two iconic structures in the downtown that should really dominate the skyline of downtown, and that's the old mill and the old courthouse. So we can't overpower that with additional height. We try and retain the pedestrian character along Main Street. If you put large buildings right up against Main Street, it tends to be imposing on the pedestrian traffic, and we don't want that. And then finally, there's still a connection to the mountains to the west, and we ought to retain some views from Main Street of that. So instead of the height map, the Planning Commission devised these criteria and put that in its place. The second thing I'd like to mention is the council didn't feel all the appendices that were in the back of the first draft that you reviewed really added anything and maybe confused the overall goals of the downtown neighborhood plan. And I think the Planning Commission felt strongly that it helps give some background to some of the goals and objectives of the downtown plan to have those appendices there. So what's gone back in is we have a background on the current conditions of the downtown. One thing that was confusing to council was the implementation strategy. That's been rewritten so that it really is a priority of strategies that will be conducted to help implement the plan. We have an appendix that I'm going to have to cheat and look at my notes here. The timeline of basically 3 to 4 years that it took to adopt the general plan. Hopefully you adopt it tonight, or we'll have to amend it again. The public outreach program, and then a glossary of terms. So those are the two things I wanted to identify that are the big difference between what you reviewed in November and what's before you tonight. So with that, we wholeheartedly support the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to have the council adopt the resolution adopting the downtown neighborhood plan. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Jerry?
Glenn, height was an issue with this with many of the citizens. Is that correct?
What was that? I'm sorry.
The height issue, the plan that is no longer in here. Was that one of the major concerns with some of the citizen input?
I believe that the residents, it was a major concern, that they felt that, again, that's their home. They are in a much smaller scale area, and I believe the concern was if we start bringing in high rises, they lose that character, and we lose the character of the downtown. So I believe that's correct, that it was primarily coming from the residents of the downtown.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Jim?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you to the Planning Commission for working with us and getting this plan to this point. As probably many of you know, I've had a number of meetings with merchants downtown and with property owners downtown about this plan. And whenever you tell them that the underlying zone district that is currently in existence is going to stay there, they felt much better about that, and then there were some protections put in there to, as you said, protect some of those private residences. Removing the sunset provision, I think, was very helpful. That is a prerogative, I think, that could be established by this council as opposed to having it in a plan somewhere. And frankly, I think that the things that the Planning Commission put back in, like the appendices and a few other changes into the economic development portion of the plan, which I think we had eliminated most of that, are very good. And I'm very pleased and will support moving forward with this tonight.
Bruce?
Just a couple comments, since I was not on council when many of these changes were recommended, but I did get a chance to watch both the Planning Commission and the council before I was placed on council. I think you've done a great job reflecting everybody's points of view in this. It's a planning document that is truly something people can live with, and at times I think that was certainly the challenge to get over that hump. So congratulations to people who have worked so hard to do that. I think the way you express the height issue in here is a very livable concept, and one which gives the next group of people who have to look at the next planned building something to work with. I think that's very, very meritable. And then just finally, I just wanted to say, and Linda, you mentioned at the beginning, 31 years of time has passed since the original comp plan, 4 years of work to do this. I feel 6 months maybe for a section of town would be a reasonable time limit. Maybe begin to look at Broadway, Santa Fe, the open space along the river, and the areas that can be modified there. There's a lot of opportunity here. And I think the wording that you put into this in many places now will become boilerplate wording for the next set of reviews, because you didn't have some of this 31 years ago. So my compliments to you on something that we can work off of too.
Bruce?
It's probably hard to overstate the level of frustration with when you work as diligently and as intently as Planning Commission did on putting this together, and then it goes in front of another group for review and they work it over. Really appreciate your guys' willingness to step back and give it another go after what had to be a frustrating session back when we did this in October. But I think the end result of your guys' professionalism on the whole thing and with staff support, it's a much more coherent, it hangs together much better, a comprehensive kind of plan for the neighborhood, and I think it's stronger with you guys giving it one last go through and working to coalesce all of the comments together. So as Bruce and Jim said, just really appreciate the extra effort and well done.
Jerry?
As a former Planning Commission, I certainly appreciate the time and the considerable effort that the Planning Commission put into this plan. I realize that was over 3 years that you put out over 27,000 pieces of literature or questionnaires, and I doubt few came back with pats on the back. So I do appreciate what you do. The Planning Commission is a volunteer group of people that put supposedly only twice a month, but end up doing more than 4 times a month with study sessions involved in there. So again, I appreciate everything that you guys did on this. Thank you very much.
Jim?
I did want to report that Glenn and I made a presentation to the Downtown Merchants Association earlier this month, and I think for the most part it was very well received. They had one concern, which is in the plan, to work on a parking plan, and that was the big concern. They want to know when that was going to get started and whether they would have the ability to do input into that parking plan, and we assured them that they would.
Anyone else?
Mayor, if I just may, in response to Councilman Beckman's comments, and I think Council's cognizant of this, at the February 10th meeting, we will, now that you have adopted your goals and objectives, come and talk to you about the next steps in updating the 81 comp plan and discussion of public process, and again, the associated land use zoning code amendments that we'll be working on. So you will get a full presentation on next steps within a couple weeks.
Great. I would just also like to comment that I think it was a learning exercise for all of us to go through it. Most of us have never done a comp plan before. So while the amount of time is continually repeated, I think that at the end of the day, the time this took and the effort and the thought and the try this, change this, do it this way, will actually catapult our ongoing efforts, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel, and we did have to reinvent the wheel with this. Kudos to the Planning Commission. Having met with Linda and Craig earlier, it was the very collaborative and cooperative, and I think that we have a strong working relationship with your group, and look forward to going forward on our next group of work. So thank you so much. Anything else, Council? Okay, I need a motion.
I move that the resolution approving the downtown neighborhood plan as amended be adopted, and that the mayor be authorized to affix her signature thereto.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor. The motion is unanimous.
And if Phil was here, he would have voted for it, too.
Do the wave around the room, the wave.
Yeah. Okay,
Nice job, you guys.
that's
Thanks.
great. Now, B.
Yes.
All right, 9B is a motion to adopt the appointee communication policy and amend the appointee EEO complaint process. With your indulgence, I'd like to go through the history and facts on this, as this is fairly new to anybody who is not on council. As you know, the City Council has the sole supervisory authority over 3 positions in the city, specifically the city manager, city attorney, and municipal judge. These 3 appointed positions are equal with one another in the organization, and each position reports directly to the City Council. Thus, it's important that the appointees of the council understand the proper channels of communication between council and employees whom report directly to them. Inquiries or concerns about the City Council expectations of such appointee shall be made directly to the City Council through the mayor, as opposed to contacting another council appointee. Once the mayor receives such an inquiry, the mayor will promptly refer the issue to the entire City Council for consideration, and appropriate action will be taken where it is deemed necessary. It's important to note that this directive does not cover the process appointees should use if and when making an EEO complaint. Such complaints are governed by the appointee complaint process adopted by the City Council on October 13, 2011, and for which amendments are being proposed herein. The process, which was adopted on October 13, 2011, was intended to include complaints that were also made by or against any of the city judges that are retained as independent contractors. The way the process was written, as originally adopted, only contemplated complaints made by or against the presiding judge. In addition, the proposed amendments refer to the legally cognizable. You got to use English here. Cognizable. Okay.
Yeah.
Term for these positions as appointee rather than direct reports. Council, do we have any discussion?
You want anything with the back? Discuss the back, or this is just the adjustments, right?
Right. Is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
I move
Peggy?
that the motion to adopt the appointee communication policy and amend the appointee EEOC complaint process be approved.
Second.
Okay. Ready to vote?
I would like to make an amendment.
Okay.
to the first paragraph.
Oh,
In the first paragraph, 4 lines up from the bottom, that little part says another direct report. I would like to move to replace direct report with council appointee, because we're adopting the language of council appointees, not direct reports. And that parallels the language in this second paragraph, well, third paragraph.
I'm sorry, Peggy, can you say that, what do you
And
want to do again?
There's the term direct report is in that first paragraph, 4 lines up from the bottom of that first paragraph, as opposed to contacting another direct report.
Oh, you're saying you want to insert council.
oh, it should
I want
say
to replace
appointees.
direct report with council appointee, because that's the language that we're using in the rest of it.
We'll just take that as a directive because that is my intent. So I don't think you need to vote on that. It is more appropriate legally to refer to us as appointees as opposed to direct reports.
Okay, so I don't need to make the motion.
No, we'll change that.
Okay. So,
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a sec. Did we get a second?
Yeah, I seconded it.
Okay, we have a second. Any more discussion? Okay, ready to vote?
The vote is 6 in favor. The motion is approved.
Okay. So 9C, Peggy, this is a...
Excuse me,
agenda.
Mayor, can you turn off the votes?
Yes, thank you.
Till I go, and then you'll do it? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you should have a switch down there.
Yeah. Wake up.
Falling down here.
Peggy, your suggestion on the June 21st meeting?
yes, well, June 21st is the Tuesday night during the CML annual conference week. And sometimes people like to go up on that Tuesday, so they're there, right? And if we have council meeting, that's depending on how fast one drives, that's a couple-hour drive. So I'm suggesting, well, I'm asking, do we think we need to have a meeting then? And if we do, I'd like to start the meeting earlier so that people don't arrive in Breckenridge at 1 o'clock at night or something.
And a point of clarification, it's actually June 19th, is that Tuesday?
Pardon, is it Tuesday?
June 19th is that
Oh,
Tuesday.
sorry, I thought, geez.
That's okay.
Okay, whatever the Tuesday is.
Okay.
I,
Jim?
Well, I being on the CML board, I wouldn't, if you have a meeting, I would not be here because I need to be up there for the workshops that afternoon.
Okay.
And Mayor, I would say based upon the new protocols that you just approved, that changing the time doesn't require a motion anymore, and so I can work with you on the agenda when we get closer to that time period. The only reason we would need an action by the council is if we canceled that meeting wholeheartedly, so it was not on my radar, it is now.
Yeah, I just wanted us to have.
No, this is great, so we'll make a note of it on the tentative council calendar.
Well, but let me, the reason I'm raised this now, so if we're going to go ahead and schedule reservations, then if we're not going to do something, either cancel the meeting or start it early, then I'm probably going to want to get up long before the crack of dawn Wednesday instead of going up Tuesday night. And if we want to get reservations at the cheapest rate we can, cheapest rooms, then we need to be doing it coming up probably in the next few weeks.
They have good inexpensive rooms in Frisco. So then what you might want to do, we can just plan on not having the meeting. I think that's probably the easiest thing to do. I'm sorry?
That'd be my preference.
And then we'll just work around it for any second readings or anything like that.
Okay.
And I'll bring back a council communication at the next meeting that we have so that we can officially cancel it.
Okay.
And then that would be good, and we'll work around the rest of it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, council, seeing no other business, we are adjourned.